lovelies, welcome back to the Geek Suite. I'm your host, the one and only Kidner Bean, and we're back for another Vlogmas 2019 video. Okay, so today's video is about one of the classic holiday Christmas movies that is usually done on a 24-hour marathon on any given cable channel every year, and I don't really care for it. And that is going to be the classic Christmas movie, A Christmas Story. I didn't include this video in my earlier Vlogmas video of the top 5 most controversial Christmas stories because I don't know that people either feel really strongly on either side about it. There are people who very much love it, and there's people who I guess are kind of ambivalent or don't care for it, but there isn't this dichotomy where we see that with things like Die Hard or Nightmare Before Christmas, like we did in the other video. And there are certain things in this video that I wanted to make sure it had its own slot. So let's go ahead and get into reasons why I don't like A Christmas Story. But before we get into it, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our delicious Geek Suite content. It really helps keep my channel afloat amongst the tumultuous waves of the YouTube algorithm, and it helps me keep more content like this coming. And it only takes a second. Come on. Come on. Come on. Now, one of the biggest reasons that I do not like A Christmas Story falls under one of the same reasons that I do not like Home Alone. And it's this toxic vitriol, anger, and hostility that comes out in the family dynamic. And it's one of those things that this kid is nostalgic about when he's replaying this memory, because the Christmas Story is a grown man in the early 80s recalling a Christmas from 1940. And it's what he recalls and what he's nostalgic about that kind of keeps me off kilter. And it's this hostile, dysfunctional family dynamic. The mom is always just worn down to the bone and gets no credit and can't have anything for herself and is just completely stomped over. And even as a kid, I couldn't understand why anyone would treat their mom that way or why she would allow herself to be treated that way. And as a kid, it had to be explained to me that in the 40s, things like divorce were not common, women didn't really have the same kind of rights or respect that they do now, and this was just something that was unfortunately common for a lot of women. And I just thought that was absolutely horrible. And then the dad is always super angry and just hostile towards his wife and his kids, and he's bitter and miserable, and it makes his wife and kids bitter and miserable. And you can tell, especially in like the breakfast scenes or the meal scenes, when he walks into the room, everybody's on eggshells. And to anyone who grew up in any type of abusive home, whether it be physical or psychological, emotional, whatever, you know that feeling in the air when that person walks in the room. And so I imagine that a lot of people who grew up in those type of dysfunctional homes and abusive homes, when they saw that father figure walk in A Christmas Story, instantly were thrown back to when they were kids or wives or whatever in that abusive and dysfunctional environment. And so, much like those people who grew up knowing that there were certain family members that you had to be extra careful not to set off, that is such a huge turnoff for me. And especially for a Christmas film. Christmas is supposed to be a time of love and caring and enjoyment. And yes, there are Christmas films that explore the darker side of humanity, like Miracle on 34th Street and A Charlie Brown Christmas, where, you know, it's not always jingle bells and snowflakes and cocoa. There are real world issues, and sometimes things sucks, and you maybe don't want to be emotionally vulnerable. But where Christmas Story sort of diverges from all of that is that rather than in movies like Miracle on 34th Street or Charlie Brown Christmas, learning about the spirit of the season and why you should be emotionally available and vulnerable and be kind and make the effort to be a good person is the message at the end of the film. It all comes back together and it more or less has a happy ending, whereas A Christmas Story, everybody just stays where they are. There's no turn of the tides where they realize that maybe being this way isn't okay, or that they need to stop with the hostility, or be more open-minded and loving and rejoice in the love of their family. They don't have that. And so I think that that is like the key component that's missing from A Christmas Story, is that it's a story that happens around Christmas, but it doesn't have the spirit of Christmas in it. And talking about this lack of a spirit of Christmas and toxic things that were maybe more common in the 40s, and even maybe while they weren't as common in the 80s, it was still not so socially taboo to practice these things or to talk about them. And these would be things like making fun of Asian people openly. I mean, if you get caught singing this,
Take the home with our glory,
in 2019, it's not going to go well for you. And then there's also the bit about physically disciplining their children. And it's this scene, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, in which Ralphie gets caught swearing. And when his mother hears it, he washes his mouth out with soap, which is gross and not healthy. Insert rant here. But then she demands to know where he heard that word. And the adult narrator is reminiscing about how they both knew that their dad said it several times a day at home, but there was no way in hell that he could say that and have that be an acceptable answer. So he blames it on his friend. They'd heard it from one of his friends at school. And children's suffering is kind of another motif that goes along in this film, where it's him getting kicked in the face by Santa and pushed down the slide after asking for his BB gun, his friend getting his tongue stuck to the pole and having to rip it off, kids getting beaten by their parents, because in this scene where he then blames his friend, she calls this friend's mother, and you can hear on the other end of the phone, and this is supposed to be comical, but I never found it that way, where you can hear her becoming irate, and then you can hear her physically beating her son on the phone, and then, I don't know if this is just me, and my conspiracy tendencies, but we never see said friend for the rest of the film, so I'm like, yo, did he get his friend killed? I'm pretty sure he got his friend killed over the F-bomb. What is this Christmas movie? So yeah, there's a lot of things like abuse and casual racism that were acceptable in the 40s and even early 80s that now just don't translate or age well, and I never found them funny when I was watching it as a kid in the 90s anyway, so yeah, it just didn't really feel right to me. And then touching back on this, A Christmas Story is missing the Christmas spirit thing. Christmas Story is mostly about getting stuff. His whole mantra throughout the film is he wants his BB gun, and everyone tells him, you'll shoot your eye out, kid. But he just keeps bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up. And the resolution at the end of the movie isn't that, you should enjoy being with your family and Christmas is about love and giving and whatever. No. The moral of the story is he gets the BB gun and then shoots his eye out. But he's just so happy about the year that he got his Red Ryder blah 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 BB gun. And that's all he remembers when looking back on it. So it's just completely thrown into the commercialism of the holiday and making this movie devoid of any deeper meaning. And I can understand why some people who maybe had similar childhood memories and weren't emotionally scarred by them would think this is a funny movie to watch or enjoy it, but I just never did, and I don't think it's a good Christmas movie, and not even in a controversial sense where it would end up on my top 5 list that I gave in my earlier Vlogmas video. I think it's its own brand of crap, and is something that should maybe just fall into the waysides of obscurity as Christmas continues. I don't think we need any more 24 hours of nothing but a Christmas story on whatever movie channel does it every year. There are so many Christmas movies out there. I mean, Hallmark alone has made a whole market out of it that we can watch and enjoy, and they can even be, retrospective Christmas movies looking at people's childhoods in the 40s and the 60s and the 80s, wherever you want it. But it doesn't have to be this toxic, just constant grinding at the dysfunctional family dynamic trying to eke out a few jokes. We don't need that. Not at Christmas. And while I know that is a reality for some people, it's not something that you need to insert into cinema. Cinema is often a form of escapism, and I can't think of anyone who would want to escape to that. But maybe I'm wrong. If A Christmas Story is one of your favorite movies, let me know why in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear it. Alrighty, my lovelies. That's all the time I'm gonna give A Christmas Story. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our videos. And let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Do you not care for A Christmas Story? Have you even seen A Christmas Story? Or is it one of your favorite movies? And let me know why. Alrighty, my lovelies, that's all the time I have for today. I want to thank you to all my patrons. Patrons are who make this channel possible. Every donation goes to supporting more content creation like this, and our patrons get exclusive access to patron-only content on my Patreon site. The link is here. They get things like early access to videos, access to patron-only videos, uncensored videos, access to the Geek Suite Discord server, and the ability to vote in polls to determine our upcoming content at the higher echelons. And during our Vlogmas special, since Vlogmas is the season of giving, we are having a special Patreon special for Vlogmas in which our patrons who sign up between now and December 20th will receive, in addition to whatever tier benefits they sign up for, a custom handwritten holiday card or Christmas card of their choosing from me, the Kidner Bean. Thank you so much for watching, my lovelies, and I will see you all tomorrow.